regularly scheduled November meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. This meeting has been properly noticed. Now that we are called together, I would invite Kevin Haney. Kevin is one of the lead deacons at Beth Emmanuel to lead us in our invocation. All rise.
In the name of our Father in heaven, who sent us his Son and has called us his children and fills us with his Spirit, the Spirit of wisdom and discernment. This actually was supposed to be the invocation offered by Randy Simonson, who is now deer hunting, which is why I'm here. We talked last week about that how our God, our Lord, is neither Democratic nor Republican. And the themes of the last two prayer meetings on Tuesday and Thursday were the essence of just a couple passages I wanted to share, and then I'll close. Psalm 27, "Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud, be gracious to me and answer to me. You have said, seek my face, and my heart says to you, your face, Lord, do I seek. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He directs it wherever he wills. The Lord can use anyone. Surely you summon nations you do not know, and nations that do not know you will hasten to you. Because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, has endowed you with splendor. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the air, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and make it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I have sent it. Dear Lord, teach each of us to remember that we are not spectators in this process and merely observers, but each of us is an active participant. And teach us the lesson of Daniel, the prayer of one man who clothed the mouths of many lions. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with his great favor and give you peace.
Amen. Please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, for the roll, will you please indicate your attendance via our electronic voting? Yes, he's absent. Yes. I heard from him late. 18-1. Thank you. Supervisor Hawksford is absent, and with an excused absence. He is on a business trip out of state and was not able to be with us today. The consent agenda is in front of you with some items. They were included in your packet. For those that are watching at home, the items on the consent agenda this morning are the minutes from our last regular meeting, which was held on 2 October, announcing the date of our next meeting, which is 4 December. And then there are certain technical amendments to the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances Land Use. These come from the Community Development Committee. They come as a result of a public hearing, were approved by the Community Development Committee, and are on your consent agenda. Chair would entertain a motion for the consent agenda. Motion from Supervisor Osnes, second from Supervisor York. All in favor of the motion will indicate as soon as Cindy's ready.
Go ahead and second. Okay.
And go ahead and vote. And the consent agenda is approved unanimously. I'm not aware of any presentations or recognitions that come before us this morning or any appointments that are germane to our meeting. So I will direct our attention now to our administrator, Administrator Pat Thompson, and his agenda memo, which has been included in your packet, board members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. You should have in your packet a copy of the agenda memo for today's meeting. I won't go through it in any detail. We have a rezone matter in the town of Ceylon from 73, a little over 73 acres from Ag to Ag District 2 in the town of Ceylon. Then we have a resolution approving the 2013 county administrator's recommended budget. If all goes well, then it becomes the county board's budget as of today. Then we have a resolution to charge back to the town of Springfield $35.46 in back taxes. And then we have a resolution and ordinance companion pieces of legislation adopting the comprehensive plan for St. Croix County. There's a resolution and an ordinance, and that is to comply with state statute and county ordinance and county bylaws. Other than that, I have nothing else to report on this morning. You'll probably hear enough of from me during the budget resolution, so I'll just move on from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Might as well stay right there because I'm not aware of any department or committee reports this morning, and so we'll move right into the administrator's recommended budget. Our procedure at this point, let me just indicate that Administrator Thompson will present a summary review of the recommended budget. As you are aware, board members, this has gone through a couple of situations with us. We did give it discussion at Committee of the Whole, and later we will have a resolution coming to this forum from the Committee of the Whole recommending approval of that budget. So at this point, we will turn it over to Pat for presentation, and following the presentation, then we are going to open this up for a public hearing. Anyone present this morning that wishes to speak or comment on any aspect of the presented budget will be able to do that at the conclusion of Pat's presentation. So, Administrator Thompson, I turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, just to summarize the 2013 budget, this has been a long process. We started actually about 4 or 5 months ago working with department heads, developing some goals and objectives for the 2013 budget. Some of those objectives, high-level objectives that I laid out, was that we would try to achieve a budget with a zero increase in the controllable property tax levy. I did not want to utilize general fund dollars to try to balance the budget. We wanted to move forward with pay for performance in some fashion incorporated in the budget. We also wanted to try to stabilize the self-funded health insurance fund and also try to reduce overall health insurance costs to the county. Those were just some of the high-level overarching goals that the administration laid out for department heads as we entered into this budget process, like I said, 4 or 5 months ago. Also incorporating in the budget, we wanted to not lose sight or lose focus on the county board's adopted strategic plan, the priority areas that have been identified by the board of community development, protecting at-risk populations, economic development, transportation, public safety and criminal justice, and last but not least, incorporating all those priority areas, but still maintaining the financial health of the county and the efficient use of property tax dollars. So we were focusing on that strategic plan as a framework for building the 2013 budget. Kind of drove the process. I think this budget takes that strategic plan and it gives it some legs. It moves the county's strategic plan forward on a strategic path. It's fiscally responsible. It's mindful of the St. Croix County taxpayer, and it advances the strategic plan, as I've mentioned. The overall property tax levy that I spoke of for the recommended budget is $27.7 million. That's the actual property tax levy needed to balance and approve the 2013 recommended budget as it stands today. That is a slight decrease from the 2012 property tax levy of about 0.43%, slightly under the 2012 property tax levy, $120,000 plus less than what was required in 2012. When we build a budget by state law, by state statute, they allow, because we're still under levy limits, and those have been with municipalities and counties for many, many years. Even back when I was working in Dunn County and La Crosse County, we were under levy limit restrictions then, and this many years later we still are. But the state law allows for net new construction, which hasn't been great in St. Croix County, but it allows counties to increase their property tax levy by net new construction. This budget, if we would have allowed for that, would have given us less than a 0.5% increase in the levy, 0.46. We did not apply that increase to balance the budget. We didn't use the net new construction. So those dollars just fall to the general fund. They actually increase, eventually will increase the general fund balance. So that's significant that we didn't use general fund dollars to balance, and we didn't even use the net new construction, which is a slight bone that the state throws counties to try to help balance their budget. Like I said, in St. Croix County, the net new construction values have just tanked, and so they're not strong, and they don't allow for a lot of growth in spending, which we haven't used anyway. As I said, fund balance was not applied. The recommended budget retains approximately 30% in general fund balance compared to overall county expenditures, and that complies with GFOA standards. That is the Governmental Finance Officers Association. It's a national association that puts out parameters for undesignated, unreserved fund balances for local governments, and we're in a strong position there. We more than comply with their standards, and we also comply with our auditing firm's standards for fund balance. We did utilize some sales tax residual to balance. We used about $260,000 in sales tax. In 2011, we budgeted $4.8 million in sales tax. We actually realized $5.1 million in 2011 in sales tax. In 2012, we budgeted $5 million in sales tax year-to-date through July. Mid-year, sales tax collections have been a little over $3 million. So we're on track in 2012 to either meet or exceed budgeted sales tax revenues. So I feel comfortable recommending to the board that we utilize some sales tax residual dollars to help balance the budget. The self-funded health insurance, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, originally when we started this process 5 months ago, we were looking at 18% increases in health insurance. The administrative team worked on this with our health insurance consultants. We revised our policy regarding the use of that fund. We worked with the Labor Management Committee, which we meet with regularly through our HR department to try to develop a strategy to lower the overall cost to the county for health insurance premiums. We were able to, through a lot of work by that group, the administrative committee, ultimately the county board, to bring those costs down to slightly under 3% increases in health insurance, which is a huge cost to the county. In terms of employee benefit cost, it's a large dollar increase. So anything we can do to keep those costs lower, like I said, slightly under 3%, that is really fabulous for the county to achieve those kind of savings in our health insurance fund. We're also trying to stabilize that fund. It's a self-funded health insurance plan. It's not a fully insured program. I'm a firm believer in self-funding if we can, because you have more control over your costs for health insurance. So as long as we can keep this kind of track record going and try to build up that fund so that it's more stable and we don't see the roller coaster ride that we had been on, I would recommend that we stay self-funded and try to continue to build that fund as best we can. In terms of capital dollars in the budget, we have been able to recommend $1.3 million in capital, which is an increase over last year's capital budget of $750,000, which is, I think, significant. The focus on the capital budget for 2013 is more of a technological infrastructure. It doesn't build us it's not a bricks and mortar capital budget, although there is some of that in it. It's more of addressing needs, infrastructure needs through technology in 2013. Addressing needs out at HHS in terms of health records management, the same systems in our criminal justice and public safety fields, a need for IT infrastructure in the sheriff's office. So it takes a little more of an IT technological bent in 2013, but I think these are dollars well spent and dollars that need to be addressed in terms of how we maintain our IT infrastructure in medical records. In terms of personnel and labor, we have allocated dollars for moving pay for performance forward. As I said, unless negotiated with our collective bargaining units, there will be no automatic pay raises unless negotiated with the labor management or the labor collective bargaining labor groups. We are currently in the process of meeting with them. We are making good progress, not only in terms of addressing personnel costs, labor costs going forward in 2013, as moving in the new collective bargaining environment, which is really still not, I would say, a real sure thing with Act 10. And, I won't get into all that, but there's recent judicial decisions that kind of keep things in a little bit of a question mark, although, this thing will get settled as the courts deal with it, and ultimately maybe the High Court of the state of Wisconsin will need to get involved. But we're moving forward with our groups, with our labor groups, trying to settle any issues that we have. on the table moving forward with a compensation plan that will meet the county's needs as well as each and every employee's needs. And I feel confident that we can pull that off with the group that we have. Overall departmental reductions, I mean, this was not an easy budget to balance. We, based on the original requests that came forward from departments, we reduced budgets by about $800,000. Working with each and every department head, going through their budgets line by line and trying to come up with some savings to help balance. And so we were able to reduce overall requests by $800,000, working hand in hand with departments. And I appreciate the sacrifice that they've made in balancing the budget. In terms of staffing, the largest part of our budget, about $68 million budget total recommended for 2013, a little over $40 million of that is personnel in terms of compensation and the full array of benefits that go along with a county staff position. $40 million of the $68 million. That's in excess of 60% of our budget is personnel. And so anything that the administration can do to look at overall spending needs to have a focus of what are we doing with our workforce and our labor force. So we have taken a real fine comb through staffing levels of each and every county department. And this is an ongoing process that I've been working with the HR department and department heads since I've been here. When positions become vacant, we don't automatically fill them. There's no automatic posting and filling positions as is. They go through a rigorous review by the HR department with departments and ultimately myself in terms of whether or not positions are filled either at the current level or if we reduce positions through attrition, through various mechanisms, we can slowly but surely reduce the overall cost to the county. Now, I'm not saying there are no layoffs in the budget. There are no targeted positions for reduction, but through attrition, when people either transfer out or they leave county employment, we can look at those positions when they're vacant and determine whether or not through restructuring, through merging, through sharing resources, whether or not positions can be, we can condense the overall FTE count in the county. Like I said, that's a huge part of our budget, so we need to continue to focus on that. But do it smartly so that we're not tying departments, tying their hands, and so that they can still provide service. A good example of this is our Planning and Zoning Office, which under the direction of our new Director for Community Development, we have been able to collapse various work units that were standalone silos, standalone departments in the wide array of departments that are under community development. And through collapsing that group and working with Ellen and her leadership team, trying to develop a way that we can do things smartly, but with less county resources devoted to staffing. And we've been able to accomplish that in community development. I'm also working with other department heads that have positions that have become vacant. To example is the Veterans Office. There was a position that became vacant there. One of their employees slid over into that position, so that left a vacant administrative support position. Working with Merlin on that and Brad in ADRC, which we can share resources through those two departments to help meet the need, because the budget recommended that position go to part-time, but there's certain gaps in coverage that we still need to take care of. And so Brad came to the table, and we're working with him to try to help meet that need. Those are two minor examples of what I'm talking about, and this is happening in virtually every single department when there is a vacancy. We really ask the tough questions. You know, do you need the position? At what level? Are there other ways of providing that service? And we'll continue to do that. Overall, those are the comments that I have on the 2013 budget. The document, I didn't even bring it up with me because it's too heavy to carry, but and you folks have been carrying that around for probably the last 2 weeks, and hopefully spending a little bit of time looking through it, looking through the summary that was provided. Each of the standing committees were briefed on their departments, that the oversight that they have for their departments. We went through standing committees. We met as a committee of the whole and went through a summary of the budget. You've had these books for, I don't know, almost 2 weeks, and hopefully you feel that the staff has done a good job. I certainly do. I think the staff has done a tremendous job. We went through a transition in our finance department. A year ago at this time, I was planning for the departure of our long-term finance director, and we went several months without a finance director, as you all know. And we went through a rigorous search and screen process. We finally made a good selection, a wise selection to lead that office. But, you know, kudos to her, kudos to Tabitha for coming in here brand new and taking this process, taking this bull by the horns. And, you know, it's been tremendous for me to have the confidence in our finance staff, and we also brought in an expert assistant finance director from the city of Maplewood, Bob Middett. We have Deb out at HHS, and so we've got a strong financial team moving forward. But, you know, we kind of entered into this process with a new team, but they really stepped up. And the whole staff has. You know, I can't say enough for the entire administrative team. So in other words, I feel comfortable. I feel good about this budget. I think it's a solid plan moving forward, but that does not mean that you may have, that you don't have questions. I think you should have questions, and you should feel comfortable asking us at this point to go into any level of detail that we can to help you feel as comfortable about this budget as I do. Thank you.
I think board members will hold our comments and questions until after the public hearing. So if you've got some, be prepared for those. But at this point, we want to give the public a chance to weigh in. So at 9:30, I will declare open the public hearing on the 2013 county budget. Any person that is present, any member of the public that wishes to comment on any portion of the budget, you're invited to come forward. Please identify yourself by name and where you live when you come forward. But at this point, we'll open it, declare this public hearing open. Steve, I was motioning to. I was already motioning to Scott.
Ladies first.
All right, good morning. It never fails. Every time I come to the front, the laptop goes south. So if you would bear with me, I'm going to bring this from mind. Regarding the budget, I think...
Scotty, if you just identify...
I'm sorry. I'm Scotty Yard, New Richmond, Wisconsin, and I will be speaking on a number of topics, but I will make it short and swift. Within the budget, it appears that our administrator and as well as the persons helping him within finance have actually come to quite a nice set of numbers. I would encourage you to all, in looking forth and within the comprehensive plan, which is a nice document as well, that the libraries continue to be funded. As the comprehensive plan has brought forth, we do have a vision of great education within the county. Funding those libraries furthers education. And as we all know, an educated public is an informed public. In moving forth onto the nursing home, going forth with what has been voted on for a new nursing home is amazing. We have an opportunity not just to provide the residents of St. Croix County with a nursing home, but possibly senior living, possibly assisted living, additional care services into the community. You all have the vision to make this happen. And I can see St. Croix County moving forth with the expansion of the nursing home in this direction, ensuring the future of not only the home and the jobs, but the public that it serves. Moving forth to the comprehensive plan, I would draw your attention to what would be page 100 of your agenda. It would be under utilities and community land use, I believe. And I'm sorry, my laptop is not coming up yet. But I refer to the language in paragraph 1, sentence 4, which states that the county is looking at wind resources and is ensuring access from adjoining properties. I'd like to point out to you that even under state statute PSC 128, access to adjoining properties cannot be had without proper approval, permits, and compensation. So I would ask you to review this language within the comprehensive plan, and I would also ask you to address the language regarding private residences. I have been involved in a number of wind turbine siting cases. I'm currently working with members of the town of Forest and a number of groups in southern Wisconsin. This type of language in a county comprehensive plan is extraordinarily risky because further down the road it may open you up to independent development of utility scale turbines, which was not envisioned. And I understand that a great amount of the information that was brought forth in this plan was developed in 2008 and 2009, which was a time before we had more information, more statistics, and more science regarding the development of wind. If the comprehensive plan is suggesting a wind turbine to power one residence, we are talking about a very different mechanical operation than if we are looking at a utility scale turbine, which is 500 feet, requires 40-foot wide roads, and does a great deal of damage coming in for the amount of power it produces. And while we do have wind generation for these smaller single-family home turbines, and it would be very good in this county to power a single residence, the wind is not stable enough within St. Croix County to power utility scale. So I would ask you to take a look at this very, very closely. If I can assist you in answering any questions or give you any further information, I would be very happy to do so. My information is on the comment card. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really don't need it for the public hearing. That's right.
Good morning, supervisors, board chair, vice chair. It's nice to see you guys again. I'm here to talk about the budget.
Who are you?
Oh, who am I? I always forget that piece. My name is Steve Hermson. I live at 813 Harborview Road here in the town of Hudson. I'm here to speak today on the budget and my review of it. And granted, since I've sat in the chairs with you guys and know how much time you have spent in these through that book, I'd like to point out just one, maybe two items that I have found I thought interesting that maybe board members are not aware. We've had a lot of discussion on the nursing home. We've gone over that many times, and the thing that I feel keeps getting forgotten was and I brought this up, I think 3 years ago when we first talked about cutting the levy dollars to the nursing home. And I kept referencing Wisconsin Statutes 46, which is social services. And the piece that I never was able to get out was, it says what its purpose is, 46.001. The purpose of this chapter is to conserve human resources in Wisconsin, to prevent dependency, mental illness, development, disability. It goes on to say quite a number of things of what we're to attack other forms of maladjustment by a continuous attack on causes, and to provide effective aid and services to all persons in need of aid, and those services to assist those persons to achieve or regain self-dependence at the earliest possible date, to avoid duplication and waste of effort and money on the part of public and private agencies, and to integrate a social welfare program. What it goes on to say from there, for the purpose of the option that they give, it's very unique for social services in the state of Wisconsin. It allows you to contract as a government entity, to contract with religious organizations to help reduce those costs. This is the piece that I keep thinking has been forgotten, that we have the ability as a county to use tax dollars to work with these religious organizations to help address the needs of people within the county. We don't need to do it ourselves. It doesn't have to be an exact run by government employees and only done that way. So the piece that I want to keep coming back to is when we talk about these private pay rates going on at the nursing home. I maintain that we are still subsidizing through tax levy dollars to private pay patients roughly to the tune of $200,750 is my guess for 2012. And when I did my research on this, I need the board to remember, and maybe Don could, Corp Counsel could take a look at statute 46.27 6U C item number 3, which says that anyone that's not eligible for financial assistance within the county by a defined program, we are to bill those persons that are not financially eligible for the full cost of long-term support and services received. Now, when we hear that, we heard at the last meeting that it was $280 a day at the nursing home in New Richmond. To me, that's an amount that you are laying on the taxpayers for private pay patients that we are giving them extra dollars for that really they're not eligible for. So I'm going to leave that all alone from that, but that's just something to make you aware of. But the one that's really got my hair kind of standing on end is the family services only budget. Now, I had contacted the HHS and got a response when I found out that we had provided over $300,000 to people in the county for the purpose of condoms and birth control pills. Now, I'm sure all of you agree, you have to agree with me on this. Our job, your job, is to help people to get on their own feet, to make it so that they're not a burden on society. As this purposes shows, that we are to make them independent. However, for reproductive health collections, that's what's going on with handing out birth control and condoms, we budgeted for this year $220,000. And I find that rather surprising that for productive health collections, as it says, $220,000, but if you, on the same page, a little farther up on that, for family preservation, we only gave $47,500. When I asked the question, I had sent this email asking a lot of questions of the Health and Human Services Department about this. How much energy are we putting into family planning? Well, the first report that you'll hear is that there is zero levy dollars going into it. Because as the comment was made, we make money handing out condoms and birth control pills. We make money. I thought that was rather stunning. When asked how many county employees are tasked with handing out birth control pills and condoms, or just doing paperwork to follow it, it's one FTE public health and one full-time equivalent public health nurse, one full-time equivalent support staff, a half-time FTE aide, and a half-time contract nurse practitioner. I wonder how many people on the Health and Human Services Board realize there's programs like this going on. So I just want to bring that forward, that you're handing out, you're ready to go out and budget for $220,000 for birth control pills. You're looking at $220,000 for subsidies to people above that aren't entitled to it. And where does it stop? I'm just going to leave you with that thought. Thanks.
I'm waiting for any more show of hands. Dan?
My name is Dan Hansen, and I'm from New Richmond, the city beautiful. And I wanted to talk about being grateful for the tax money that I spent, that I have relatively safe roads, that I have relatively safe bridges, and that the money that I spend on my taxes goes to serve the public. That the money that I spend helps to go to distribute to young mothers who don't have a support network, nutrition, and things that they need for the aid and health of their children and family. I'm proud of you for sustaining those programs, and I urge you not to confuse morality with your duty, and finance with idealism. This is a budget. It's not an opportunity for you to make a stand on your ideology. The county board has, for 100 years or so, been in the service of taking care of the poor and the downtrodden. We used to have a county farm. You know the whole history. I won't waste your time preaching to you about it. But please, help sustain that long, proud tradition of taking care of the underserved, the people who really won't ever be able to rise to your level of intelligence and luck, because a lot of people just don't have bootstraps to pull themselves up by. There is no place for anger, and there is no place for preaching in this room. And this vote isn't a vote for your ideology. It's a vote to serve the people who live in this community, your constituents. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Brenda Salsig. I'm from the town of Forest. I'm here this morning because I had read through the comprehensive plan for the county a lot of the information, but one particular sentence in that comprehensive plan worries me greatly. And that's Utilities and Community Facilities Vision Volume 1 through 3, and that sentence is, the county has reworked its rules to allow for solar and wind generation for private residences and have ensured the right to solar and wind access from adjacent properties. As most of you know, what is happening in the town of Forest is a potential for a utility-sized wind turbines project. And I would ask that a second look and a second pass go through this comprehensive plan. What you don't want happening is opening this up for more utility wind development should it get a foothold in the town of Forest. I'd pretty much bet everything I own, if they do get a foothold in the town of Forest, it will spread through the town of St. Croix, or St. Croix County. The payments supposedly to the town of Forest and to the town of St. Croix are perhaps of interest, but you have to understand that that comes with a price. The cost of roads, should this project go through, and the damage that will be incurred, not only on town roads, county roads as well, could be very monumental. If 1 mile of road to resurface and fix is $150,000, the potential for $330,000 to the county really means nothing if you're fixing roads, and for how long and for how many miles of roads you will need to fix. St. Croix County is called the fastest growing county in the state of Wisconsin, and one of the healthiest. I think you also put St. Croix County at risk should industrial wind get a foothold in this county. And I can go back and reference to the Forest Comprehensive Plan, which right now the wind developer is challenging. Nowhere in our comprehensive plan does it say utility or industrial is allowed except in the hamlet of Forest. Well, they're arguing what utility means, what industrial means, and right now that's before the PSC, and they will make the final choice and decision there. But my point is, please take a very hard look at what you're putting down on paper to protect the citizens and the residents of St. Croix County from this utility scale development, which could devastate not only the town of Forest, but other towns throughout the county. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to weigh in on the 2013 county budget? One final time, anyone wish to weigh in on the 2013 county budget from the public? And seeing no one, at this point I will declare the public hearing closed, and we are prepared then to move to discussion on the 2013 budget. Looking at the time, we're just about at 10 o'clock. Let's take just a very short recess, and then board members, we will move right into discussion of the administrator proposed budget. We will stand informal for 5 minutes. Board members, let's reconvene. We are back in session. This is the meeting of the St. Croix County Board. We have completed the public hearing on the 2013 budget, and we are now ready for discussion of that administrator proposed budget. To begin our process, we are considering a resolution adopting the 2013 budget and approving other expenditures. This is a resolution that is agended for us. This is a resolution that is coming to us from the Committee of the Whole. Chair will entertain a motion on the resolution. Motion to approve by Supervisor Peterson. Is there a second? And now we move into discussion. Any questions, concerns, comments on the 2013 Administrator proposed budget? And I assume that these questions, probably in their entirety, will be directed either to you, Administrator Thompson, or to you, Finance Director Tabitha. So be prepared, Ms. Hanson. Supervisor Schrottner.
In our summary, it says that the general fund unassigned fund balance remains at approximately 30+% and is not used for the budget of 2013. How much is that plus? Is it like, are we at 35%, 31, 30 point?
It ranges between 30 and 35% on any given day, but 30% is conservative. It's actually probably in excess of 33%. But rather than give you an exact percent, the range is between 30 and 35%, and I would. The reason why we use 30 is because it's conservative. But the range is anywhere between 30 and 35%.
Supervisor Osnes.
Thank you for your time Thursday afternoon that we had, and now I've come up with some more questions for you.
That's good.
Regarding capital, under building services for fireworks system in the government center, are we redoing the fire alarm system? Is that what that is?
Kristen, in terms of the fire alarm system, it's not a total replacement. Really, what we try to do each year is budget a certain amount of replacements in the system, so that at the end of the year we're not, so that during a budget time we're not coming forward with a huge expenditure to replace the whole system. We just budget for certain replacements every year. Is that correct, Kristen?
That's correct, but that fireworks...
Kristen, is your microphone on? If you're going to speak, turn it on.
Actually, this last year, we separated the fire panel in the government center such that, and actually Casey Swetlick could maybe speak to this better, but the jail used to monitor the fire alarm system in the government center, and we had different issues with that, so we moved the monitoring of the alarm system to dispatch. So that fireworks system is actually a software system that betters their ability to monitor that system in dispatch.
Okay. Thank you. And then with, under finance, it says government center renovations for $340,000. Can you tell me what that is?
We realize that there are, although we are in the process of putting together a long-range space needs capital improvement plan for not only the government center, but also for New Richmond, Baldwin, Hammond, looking at all county offices and determining a long-range plan for space needs. We realize that in the interim, there will be a need for certain expenditures in government, in the St. Croix County facilities for interim improvements to be made. We can't just ignore the fact that this building or New Richmond or whatever, any county facility is going to not need certain improvements to be made over the course of the next year and future years until we have a long-range plan in place. In other words, if we're going to be doing any reconfiguring of office space, either in this facility or others, it will require the expenditure of county dollars to do that. Okay. There's not a specific, we don't have a specific use of those dollars in the budget. It is more of a placeholder. If we do any, go back to my example of ADRC and the Veterans Office, although we're not looking at consolidating or combining those two departments, but there may be, and I've asked Merlin, I've asked Brad to look at the possibility of co-locating those two functions, which will, in the long run, reduce the need for additional staffing. Well, if we need to co-locate those two offices, and that's just an example, we're going to need to spend a few dollars to do that. If we look at the finance department, right now we have 4 or 5 accounting, payroll, staff employees housed in this back hall area in a temporary space, which cannot go on for any extended period of time. We want to eventually create a workable environment for the finance function of county government. Now, does that mean that we look at space in one of the other offices, i.e. treasurer? We've also looked at eventually studying whether or not the Register of Deeds and the community development, the planning and zoning offices can share, co-locate and share space. All these are examples of the need for county resources to reconfigure offices. And so that number is a placeholder. It's not targeted specifically for any one department or any one office. And as those plans develop, the board will be kept informed before any offices are moved. I'll update you monthly in my administrator's report. If we're going to be, say, co-locating any offices, I'll let you know what those will be.
Are you concluded, Supervisor?
Well, I've got a couple, but I'll...
Well, let's conclude your question.
I'm sorry, please excuse me. My next one, Pat, if you don't mind, for Tammy, with 12 new supervisors here, could you explain the NeoGov program?
You just want to know what the NeoGov program is that we have?
Yep, and what the costs are.
Well, we purchased NeoGov, which is, there's a lot of different modules. The only module we purchased was the applicant tracking software online hiring center probably a couple of years ago, but it actually just got implemented in 2012. And so what it provides is a database for applicants to create a profile so they don't have to submit paper applications on a regular basis. HR staff can screen things a lot more efficiently, and you can use keywords. We can work with managers at other locations in terms of emailing applications without having to make a lot of copies. So the only cost that we'll have now, I think we're now going to have a maintenance fee every year, which we haven't had the last couple, because when we first negotiated through the management system specialist position that used to be here, we did a 3-year contract. So I think it's like a $5,000 or $6,000 annual license that we'll have to in terms of maintenance support.
Any more? Okay. Supervisor Yard.
You know, on the tail end of his second to the last question, I'm just, you know, we're hearing this in the school districts, and of course it's affecting the counties. And where I'm going with this is with the better computer systems, technology systems, information systems that are coming on stream. We've already seen the universities across the country going to less bricks and mortar. And with that being said, not getting into tremendous detail here because you could wade in this pool forever, I guess, what thinking or planning is the county looking at on a long-range plan that as communications improve, as technology keeps improving, there's less need for this office space, there's less need for all this bricks and mortar. We don't need maybe these huge buildings. I'm living proof of that. I work for a company out of my home, hooked up with a computer, and I guess I'm curious as to any ideas or strategies you have in that area, or are you incorporating that into some of the thinking? Is it too soon to even consider that? But it has to come in at some point, and I mean, and really for everybody. So that's my question.
The county currently is in the process of looking at work environment. We're looking at job descriptions and trying to tailor job-specific duties and job descriptions to the actual environment. In other words, what kind of space do positions need? Are certain positions in the county more conducive to a results-only work environment is the official name of kind of the project that we've been working on. And what that is exactly what I said. We look at jobs and we look at the environment. We piloted 3 different agencies this current year, 3 different county departments, and tried to determine what is the best use of space for those departments. We're going to continue to do that in 2013 with 3 additional departments, pilot departments, and eventually hopefully roll this out to all county departments. We look at that when I talked before about whether or not positions, we look at positions when they become vacant, whether or not to fill them. We also look at what kind of office environment do they need. And globally, we need to look at all county departments. What is the future? Do we need to have separate departments and separate facilities for each department, or do we need to have more of a satellite type of, have offices strategically located in the county where our customers are, where we can provide service? And does it need to be in a bricks and mortar county facility? Can it be in leased space? Can it be in a hotel? I don't mean a hotel, but it's called hoteling. We have staff people from New Richmond that work out of this facility because of technology. In the recent reconfiguration in the administration office, we have a small work environment for staff people that are working out of their facilities, either in Hammond, Richmond, Baldwin, that can actually hotel out of the administration suite with technology. And so we have to, it's part of the overall culture, part of the overall direction that I'm trying to take the county in terms of looking at space needs. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, saying yes, we do look at that, and we will continue to look at that as we, it's very expensive to build office space per square foot. And so is there a better way of doing that? So this number is in the budget only if needed to either reconfigure offices or change work environments to try to accomplish what you're talking about.
Supervisor Kilber.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
I kind of cued in. I was going to ask you this question because it's maybe a little generic. I
Yeah.
know we've been going through all the different committees to determine what services are statutory or mandatory, and I'm just wondering a ballpark what the percentage of the budget are for mandatory services versus non-required, and if possible, how those compare with some of the other counties.
Well, that could be a whole day's worth discussion. The county government is an arm of the state. Now, that means a lot of the functions that we provide are we provide at state direction and state, in some ways, in some areas, state mandate or state law that we provide certain services. The state does not dictate at what level of service that we need to provide. Say for, just throw out an example, building inspection or HHS, certain services that we provide at HHS. The state may say, the county shall inspect, I can't read that far, but the county may inspect or shall inspect or must inspect certain properties. It doesn't say to what level. It doesn't say you need to provide 5 staff people to do that or 10. That's up to the board to determine at what level we provide that service. Say, for example, the county finance office or county administration or county human resources. Those are not mandated functions. You know, I'll throw my position. Although the state says, you know, that counties shall provide certain administrative services or shall produce a budget annually, it doesn't say how. It doesn't say that you have to have a county administrator with a staff of, you know, however many people, or a finance department with a staff of, you know, so many people to produce an annual budget. It just says the county shall provide an annual listing of expenditures and revenues. Well, we can do that. You as a board can decide how to do that. This board has decided to have a, you know, professional staff to do that function. That's just one example. I would hesitate to throw out a % of the budget that is mandated, but you know, in the break, when you asked me that, I asked Tabitha, based on her review of the mandated services study, which we did a year ago, whether or not that we could try to give you a ballpark figure, and I think she's been able to do that. So at this point, I'll turn it over to her.
Okay.
Yep.
If you look at what's
Tabitha, do you have your mic on?
Sorry. If you look at what's not mandated, just by looking through our mandated services, 20% of what we do, 21% is not mandated. That's going to be the administrator, finance, building services, IT. The nursing home, St. Croix Industries are not mandated. The other half would be mandated. Again, it speaks back to Pat as to the mandates don't go into what level, but they are a service that is mandated. So at a rough 80-20.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor York. Fred, I'll come back to you in just a minute. Let's. Nobody's going to jump in front of you, it looks like. You're up.
Questions on 2 subjects. Number 1, I'm curious of the county's efforts and county-wide efforts in the police area of overlapping jurisdiction between the sheriff's departments, city departments, state police departments. You know, I read locally what, you know, the city of North Hudson is doing contracting with the St. Croix County Sheriff. I'm just curious, is that a method? You know, if people are driving by each other, you know, doing the same function, has the county ever looked at reining all that in and getting call it a comprehensive plan that would include the county, the city of Hudson, city of North Hudson, city of New Richmond, whoever it may be, you know, to keep your police costs, let's just call it, hopefully in the best shape we possibly could. That's the first part. Second part is, I moved here from Michigan many years ago, and they were going through a process at the counties, county highway departments. And it's just an interesting idea, and I want to throw it forward. They were looking at privatizing the county highway department over there. And what they do is I'm just going to say this because I know this example. Let's use Gary Zappa as an example. He's got dump trucks that he parks in the winter. He doesn't use them. Why wouldn't the county consider contracting with a guy like that, put a plow on his truck, put a sander on his truck? The county then has no investment in equipment. You come up, you work out on a pay scale, or you know, you work out all the details on that, and it frees the county up of all that investment in the buildings and in the equipment, the maintenance and everything. And on top of that, you're giving business to a guy that's paying taxes in the county. So I'm not saying that you can give me any concrete answer here, but I am bringing forth those ideas as something we maybe should be looking at.
First, I'll talk about law enforcement first. The sheriff's office, and I've worked with the current sheriff on this. Our approach towards shared services in terms of law enforcement is that the sheriff, the current sheriff, is very open to talking with local units of government as to their needs for public safety protection in their within their jurisdiction. But the approach is that the county has not taken a strong arm approach towards pushing that issue. We're open for discussions with local leaders, either their council, mayors, managers, and their police chiefs, whether or not they would want to open up a dialogue with the sheriff's office in terms of us providing, or the county providing law enforcement services within their jurisdiction. It's a discussion I think that should be had. It is taking place, but it's more on a, we want to make sure that it's something that the municipalities are asking for, rather than us coming in and saying, strong arming city officials, village, town, saying, this is the way it's going to be. And we've had very good dialogue, and the sheriff is more than willing to continue that. In terms of privatizing either the highway department or any other department, those are, and I'll go back to my little spiel at the beginning about positions that become vacant. You're probably tired of hearing about it. That's one of the questions I always ask is there a way that this service can be provided by the private sector, either more efficiently, cheaper, but at the same level of service too? I mean, you have to make sure that you're not sacrificing quality of service for price. That's something you need to look at. Now, the highway department, I know, they certain parts of that operation is privatized. I mean, there are private contractors that do quite a bit of road work in St. Croix County, so it's not all county provided. And I think the highway commissioner could probably speak to this more eloquently than I can, but the highway department works closely with private contractors to make sure that there's no duplication of service. And in terms of equipment, I'll ask Tim, put him on the spot, whether or not we share actual physical equipment either with other local units of government, so that we're not all buying end loaders. Maybe there's a way of sharing services with other local units of government. I don't think we share with the private sector, but Tim, do you have any thoughts on that?
10-4.
10-4.
Wisconsin's the only state in the United States where we do that. All the highway departments plow all the state and federal roads, so we don't have that going on, and that's one of the measures that we use there. Plus, our association is constantly working with private firms and different ones, towns, cities, villages, for the same. Right now, we hire out the striping, and we hire out the blasting and the crushing and the milling, and we'll hire private haulers. And we haven't been successful with rusting out the private entities' trucks in the wintertime yet, but we have cussed and discussed it for quite a few years. And we mix and match a lot, and we work a lot with the towns that have their own employees and units and vehicles, especially with graders. The towns have been successful with mixing and matching themselves. So we always keep an eye on that and see where the biggest bang for the buck is on that, especially through our resources with the association. I think in 2011, our vendor runs were $8.9 million. So.
Supervisor Hood.
I kind of waited till the end just because I want to echo what Pat said. Being a new guy, I did go through the budget extensively, and I had a lot of questions. And I just want to tell you, Tabitha Hansen was a great find. She got right back to me. She said, come to my office, I'll answer your questions. And it's amazing how much she has off the top of her head. And if she doesn't have it, she finds it. So I just want to echo that. You did well to commend her, and I wanted to commend her as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Hood.
Supervisor Malik.
Unless there be any misunderstanding by those who might be listening or watching or reading the minutes or in the future, I think it might be well to clarify a little bit some of the responses you gave in respect to the law enforcement function. Administrator Thompson, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the way that the state allocates duties in the law enforcement sphere is that it gives cities and villages the authorities to have their own police departments. And the county may not tell a city or village that it cannot do that. So all a county can do is offer to be available. And we have made that offer, and this sheriff has been very proactive with respect to that. But not everybody takes us up on that. And so just let there be no misunderstanding of that. It's dictated by the state government, and they've allocated these authorities, and this county has been proactive, and Sheriff Schultz has been particularly proactive. Now, we furnish the jail. Every city and village could have its own jail, and there were times when some of them had facilities and didn't use the county jail. We furnish a district attorney and all the functions that a district attorney does for the enforcement of county ordinances and state statutes. That could be carried over into cities and villages, but as you might have noticed, most cities and villages choose to have their own courts for traffic matters and for local ordinances. They don't have to do that, but they have the power and ability to do so if they wish, and the county may not tell them that they can't. Have I got that right?
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
The only thing that I would want to check would be, and maybe some of the supervisors know that are on city councils, maybe the mayor of New Richmond knows, I don't know if state statute requires cities or villages to provide police services. I don't think it does. But I would defer to, because I've been out of the state for several years. Like, I know in Ohio, the state of Ohio does not mandate that cities provide police departments. It's something that smartly cities have said, hey, we're going to provide police departments. But there were some cities and villages in Ohio that contract out with the county to provide law enforcement services. So.
Well, I can respond to that. I happen to be on the board in the village of North Hudson as a trustee, and that is a population number. As a village under 5,000, the village would not be required to maintain its own police force. It currently does, but we are not required to.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to have the context of my comments taken wrong. I just meant all of this in the sense of, is that a way to consolidate and spend the dollars more wisely, whether it's the city of Hudson, village of North Hudson, the county, via the coordination of all of that? I understood what everybody said. It's just my goal was, has that been pursued to the point where it's being done probably as best as it can be done? Yeah, and I didn't expect an answer, to be honest with you. It's just, I do think it's something worth pursuing.
I think it is worth pursuing. I think it's a good question, and I think that we are open for those discussions, as Supervisor Malik said. I think the sheriff has been very proactive.
Supervisor Horn.
So, as I'll jump into the conversation, the city of New Richmond is referenced a couple times, and as mayor, I did have conversations with the administrator, Patrick, and with the sheriff. Basically, it was just very early. They were very open and very welcome to, if the local community wants to pursue some type of an agreement, they were more than willing to do that, to explore that. Our local city council decided not to pursue that. But the city, there's one thing that I think we should have pursued, or at least let's have the conversation, can you get the same service at a more economical rate for your taxpayers? But our local city council decided not. If I may, Board Chair, I do have one question for Patrick. In the department, risk management department, I see the wages have gone up about 21%. Can you comment on that?
The position of risk manager went through a reclassification study, and based on additional duties and assignments, that job has evolved into a higher classified position. And that is the reason for the additional resources allocated to that position.
Supervisor Schrottner.
Go ahead.
I have a couple questions on staff and staffing and pay for performance. You talked a lot about a rigorous process to see if a position if it becomes open, if it's even needed, or if it can be filled in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the process to add a position?
To add a position?
Yes.
During the budget process, department heads are asked to submit, if they have new position requests, to submit those. They are funneled through the Human Resources Department for classification review, for proper placement on whether or not the position is or is not approved. It needs to be classified correctly, certain dollars assigned to it in terms of a salary range. Then it goes through the budget process of whether or not it's going to be recommended, and ultimately it comes down to whether or not I recommend to the board whether or not a new position should be approved. If it comes up mid-year outside of the budget process, it would go through the same review process and then ultimately end up on my desk whether or not a position ought to be added to the budget. But that very seldom happens. It shouldn't happen mid-year unless it's an emergency. But it's reviewed in the rigor of the budget review process whether or not a position will be added.
Is there concern that we're going to hit a critical mass with our continued population growth and our reduction of staffing, continuous reduction of staffing, that we're going to hit a critical mass of we aren't able to provide services as expediently?
I wouldn't recommend a budget if I thought we were seriously understaffed in a certain department. We would address any staffing issues department by department. I don't think that this budget reflects any departments that aren't going to be able to provide, adequate or excellent service to the taxpayers. Now, that's not to say that in future years, as St. Croix County continues to expand and grow, that certain departments aren't going to be coming forward with additional staffing needs in certain areas of county operations. So you're probably correct that in the future we're going to have to look at that. And those questions will have to be asked. And there may be budgets that come forward with additional staffing requests. But so far, I haven't seen it.
And with pay for performance, the $400,000 that's set for pay for performance, that's a capped number, right?
Yes, sir.
Are we concerned that we are forcing supervisors and management to take funding into consideration for pay for performance? Because if we start getting close to that total amount already handed out, there's not going to be funds to continue the program. Shouldn't it be an uncapped level? We're not expecting, we don't think our staff can meet those needs to get $400,000, even though they're tripling the number of people that are going into it?
This program is in its infancy. We've only been at it for about 6 months with our non-represented work group. We're hopeful that going forward in 2013, we will be able to expand pay for performance into the entire workforce. But those discussions are ongoing with our collective bargaining represented employees. I would not recommend that there not be a cap on that dollar amount. I think if the board so generously allows for what I've recommended in the budget, that's what we have. And that's the dollar amount that we will stay within. Now, that's not even to say that the $400,000, although it's capped at that, that's not to say that it will be at that level. It may be it could be less than that based on performance. It's not a guarantee, and it's not an across-the-board guarantee for any compensation increases. It's all tied directly to performance, and it'll vary. But I can't emphasize enough that this program is in its infancy, and we're going to learn as we go. I'll have a much better track record a year from now to say how 2012 shook out and how 2013 is looking a year from now.
Well, I guess the major concern I have, and the studying I've shown, is that especially if the program is in its infancy, you need to, because there is no historical data, you need to drastically over budget, so that way people who deserve it get it, and there's no concern. And then once you have the historical data, you cut down. You don't, because otherwise the supervisors are going to have to worry about the budget, and those that are supposed to get it aren't going to get it because you've already spent as a county, we have spent the whole budget on pay for performance, and that's the major concern I have with it. Is all the programs that have failed are the ones that under budget the initial first few years of the program.
I hear you. I would not recommend we try to over budget for pay for performance. I would much rather have to come back to the board and say, based on this excellent level of service, we had so many employees exceeding performance that we need additional resources for pay for performance. I'd rather, although that's not a good position for an administrator to be in, to come back and ask for additional resources, I think I'd rather take that on than to try to sell a program and over budget it to the board. I'd rather budget conservatively and possibly have to come back and say, we were short, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But isn't the image that we're spent in the program now, isn't that vital? Because otherwise, if we do end up with an under budget and you have to come back to us, all the employees are going to say they didn't think we could reach the goals. I guess that's where I'm coming from. We risk, without over budgeting that program, we have a high risk of disenfranchising the employees that are supposed to be, that we're telling them we don't believe that they could reach it, and we're giving that image. That is where my concern comes from, is just disenfranchising our employees, and they're going to just say, well, we never really followed through with it because we were under budget to begin with. They didn't believe that we could do it, and now we showed them, but great. You know what I mean?
Well, I will take that into consideration, but I feel comfortable right now recommending the 400 to get it off the ground. Like I said, we'll know a heck of a lot more a year from now.
Supervisor Malik.
I think it might help to clarify the background of that 400,000. If I ask you a few questions and you get them out from us to us again, we heard this in the committee of the whole, but listeners and viewers haven't. For the year 2012, how much was budgeted for all increases?
200,000 for pay for performance.
And that was for how many employees, the non-representative?
About a third of the workforce.
About a third of the workforce.
Of 600.
And that amount of money was available to be spent without standards for pay for performance, was it not?
No.
Oh, it was not. At what point will it become available in 2013? The 400,000, at what point would people begin to actually receive it in their paychecks? Assuming they qualify.
I'm going to let Tammy Funk walk you through kind of the sequencing of how this will work. The dollars that were assigned in 2012 were for implementation mid-year through the end of 2012. 2013, the review will be an annual. The goal eventually is to get to an annual review where it will be a June to June or June to July review process. And so that the beginning of the review, the evaluation period will begin mid-year and end mid-year, so that in purposes of budgeting for the next year, the county will be in a good position of knowing exactly how much is required to continue the program in the subsequent year. But Tammy, can you maybe spend a minute and walk us through the sequencing and timing of this?
Yep, for 2013, the cycle will be for the non-represented employees that are currently in the pay for performance plan. They will set goals that will go December through June, and then distribution of any pay for performance funds would be in July of 2013. For the represented employees that we are beginning and having any conversations with of base wages, and then for us to decide what pay for performance mean for them, we've looked at possibly a different phased process, which could be a little later, maybe August, September, but we still would like to get at least a cycle with both groups so that when we come to you for the budget for when we begin the annual system and we come in 2013 for the 2014 budget, we would have 2 cycles with the non-reps and 1 cycle with the rep to get at kind of your concerns about having the, what's it mean at St. Croix County, what's our historical data and trend. So that's the plan. No funds have been distributed yet. The non-represented employees had to wait until the policy was approved. That $200,000 was budgeted last year as a placeholder. Then we created the plan. So the first opportunity that any employee has to receive pay for performance funds is the end of December of 2012.
And the next opportunity will be July of 2013.
Correct.
And that would only be the non-represented employees. Represented employees will be later than that.
Well, there's
because of the details that have to be worked out.
And just trying to create a phased process. I mean, we've heard concerns here. We've heard concerns from staff. We want to give the supervisors opportunity to complete their first evaluations and setting goals in this December as they begin to set the goals for their non-rep group. Then maybe January they begin to set the goals with their represented employees and kind of do a phase system just like we did with the first group, and then eventually have all employees on that July through June annual period that Pat was talking about.
Thank you. I think that helps.
Thanks.
Any other questions or observations about the administrator presented 2013 budget? Supervisor Artino.
I guess my only concern is in budget overruns at the end of the year. We've discussed this before. If your department goes over its budget, it's my contention that inside your department, other categories have to give back to that, and I don't see that mechanism. What I see is that there's the big contingency fund, which is like a big pot at the end of the rainbow. And at the end of the year, if a department is over budget, that money is pulled out of that contingency fund, which I think should be used for maybe more like a rainy day fund for real true emergencies. And that would force the departments then to run at their budget that they receive from the board recommended by the administrator. Can you explain to me how that procedure is right now? If it would, end of the year, I'm over budget in my department.
Well, budget overruns shouldn't be a surprise. So it does happen. The department heads are asked at least once, probably a lot more, and they get tired of hearing it from me. But I will ask departments to project at, mid-year, third quarter, whether or not they're projecting an overrun in their budgets. And so at that point is the time to take corrective action to reallocate or to stop certain expenditures if we can, to slow that overrun or to eliminate it. If there's a possibility of reducing the overrun, we will do whatever we can, or to eliminate it. In certain instances, the department will exceed budget. For unforeseen circumstances, something comes up they hadn't anticipated. At that point, before the county board closes the fiscal books in probably February, March, before we close the books, we have to bring a reconciliation resolution to the board, and those, before we close the books, departments that had overrun, we need to reconcile, and those balances need to be, the budget needs to be balanced. If there are overruns, it's typically the general fund that steps in to eliminate that departmental overrun. There really, since I've been here, and I think historically there really haven't been many departments at all that have overrun their budgets, but it does happen, and I'll tell you it will probably happen on my watch as well. But we will try to do everything we can to try to prevent that.
Supervisor Otino and all board members, I would direct your attention to the resolution that right now is our action item. I'm coming back to your point. And the action item that's in front of us right now contains this language. Further, be it resolved that the county administrator shall execute the adopted budget, ensuring that all expenditures of county funds are made in strict compliance with the budget, and review and administer all department and agency requests for adjustments or transfer of budgeted funds with the Finance Department and the Administration Committee as required by law and the County Board rules and bylaws. I think there's some pretty tight requirements in the resolution that we're considering for adoption of the budget, and says that if this budget that's proposed and the figures are above that, further be it resolved, it's holding the administrator's feet to the fire to administer that budget that we adopted according to this resolution.
Thank you,
Uh,
Chairman.
Supervisor Rasmus, did you have a... Supervisor Malik.
Would you add just two further points of clarification? How large is the contingency fund?
The contingency fund in the recommended budget is $150,000. It has been reduced. We had $250,000 in this year's budget, the 2012 budget. The 2013 budget has a contingency fund of $150,000.
And how large is the total budget?
$68 million.
And what body must approve any expenditure from the contingency fund?
The Administration Committee.
Thank you.
Any other questions or observations? I sense that we're prepared to vote on the resolution that is our action item. Are you prepared for the vote? The item that's in front of us, supervisors, is the resolution adopting the 2013 budget and approving other expenditures. Prepare to vote. And the budget is approved on a vote of 17-1. Our next action item is a resolution to charge back municipalities due to incorrect real estate taxes. This is primarily a technical adjustment, and it is very small in terms of number, but it is important. This resolution comes to us from the Administration Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Peterson, second from Supervisor Ring. Are there any questions on the resolution? It was included in your agenda packet. Seeing none, Supervisor Ring, are you ready? Vote, supervisors, on the resolution to charge back municipalities due to incorrect real estate taxes. And that is approved unanimously. Our next item is consideration of the comprehensive plan. There's been a fair amount of work that has gone into this over an extensive period of time. The action item that is up for our consideration is a resolution to recommend adoption of the St. Croix County 2012 through 2035 comprehensive plan. This comes to us from the Community Development Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Ring, second from Supervisor Schratner. Discussion. And maybe prior to discussion, Supervisor Ring, as committee chair or department head, I don't know how you've worked this out, some background on where we've been, how we got here, and what's in front of us today.
Thank you, Chairman Stanford. Yes, a lot of work has been done on the St. Croix County Comprehensive Plan, and there's 2 actions in front of you today. So what I'd like to start with is, what is the comprehensive plan? And basically, it's a very important county document for policy. There's background information and policy. When Administrator Thompson today talked about our strategic plan, community development is one of our top priorities. And as part of this process, we go through a process of identifying what is the vision of the county. We look at some trends. There's a lot of analysis, and there's a lot of information in many different categories. So you have all seen that in our packet today. We've got about 400 pages of information, which includes analysis and background and policy. This work goes back to 2008. 3 different county boards, 3 different community development committees have worked on this. In the last, since this board has taken action since this board came into play last April, we've spent at least once a month, we're looking at different issues and analysis related to this comprehensive plan. We had public meetings regarding it and a public hearing regarding the plan. So what it does, it provides background for decision making in many different ways. It provides, one of the most important things it does, it provides a policy framework for land use decisions. So there's information on all manner of things, but the primary purpose is guidance on land use matters. So this policy framework that provides us, it says what we have a vision, and there's a way that we want to be as a county. The county has had planning here. They've had staff planning since the 1970s. There was a farmland preservation plan in 1980. There was a comprehensive development plan, I think, in 2000. This is basically an update of those plans, and incorporated into it, and a major section of this is the farmland preservation plan, which was adopted by the county board last January. So that's one element. The plan, I think, is important. This, as I said before, it's a very important policy document for the county. It's also important for this group to understand that it provides a guide. So the decisions that are made, how do we implement this? That's typically done with ordinances. You're going to have an official map which comes out of this, subdivision ordinances, zoning ordinances, other types of more regulatory actions. Our regulatory policy is guided by this plan. So one thing I'd also like to point out, and we talked about it as a community development committee, is we have all of these different issue areas, and we have 400 pages of policy, some of which you may or may not agree with. But what it is important, if it sets the general direction, then the zoning ordinances, subdivision ordinances, and other ordinances are where we have the policy of law. A lot of work has gone into this by the existing committee, but certainly by the previous community development committees and the county board going back to 2008. So I would like to extend, on behalf of the Community Development Committee, appreciation to all the heavy lifting that went before us. Also to some staff members, specifically Ellen Denzer, who's our Community Development Director, who has led this effort, and within that, her staff is Brent Boudreau, Bob Heisey, Tammy Whitmer, have worked on this. In the process, the staff has worked with many other agencies, and that includes UW Extension. Pete Kling had a big part of it. Economic Development, Bill Rubin. Emergency Services, Kristen Saylor and Casey Swetlick. Tim Ramberg from the County Highway Department. And there's many more that I'm not, maybe not identifying, and I apologize for that. But I just want to say it's been a very comprehensive effort to integrate a lot of information all across the county. So there's if you want to concentrate on a few things, a very important piece of this, so you understand it, is the policy, which is outlined in all the text. The other piece is the map. So you will see in the plan, there is the county's best attempt to put all of the comprehensive plans that have been worked on by the county at the county level, but also by the towns, the cities, and the villages to combine those in the best way possible. Now, not everybody, we don't all use the same language, but it's our best effort to say, this is the vision, this is what we plan to go forward. Why that map is so important, I think every meeting that we've had a rezoning request. Those rezoning requests, if you've seen those, there's a very rigorous process to say, does this fit our vision? And the way they answer that question is to, one, look at the plan, and then two, look at the zoning ordinances, but our plan outlines that. So with that, I maybe would ask if there's any other explanation that's required by either members of the Community Development Committee or anyone else. I'd be open to answer questions. Also, Ellen Denzer is here to answer any questions we have.
Let's move to discussion, and I appreciate that, Chair Ring. I think that was a good background. So just so we're clear, you're indicating that it was a comprehensive effort to develop the comprehensive plan?
Absolutely.
Okay, just so we're clear on that. Supervisor Horn.
Thank you, Board Chair. We heard some testimony or some comments from a couple people earlier regarding wind and regarding the utilities and community facilities vision, specifically the last sentence of the first paragraph. And maybe you guys can comment, what is private residences for, basically allow for solar and wind generation for private residences, and maybe more specifically, what does the last half of that sentence, and have ensured the right to solar and wind access from adjacent properties? Does that include eminent domain?
I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to ask Ellen to comment. In the break, we just took a quick look at the references, and we did talk about this at the committee as well, and made a distinction about what we are talking about. And the references in the plan talk primarily about more private level, not utility level, industrial level wind operations. I am unclear on the interpretation on that second sentence in the vision on page 100. So I might ask Ellen if she could help clarify that.
She's over there.
Oh.
I moved over.
Ellen, pop your mic on. Thank you.
I moved over here so you'd be able to hear me and I could turn my mic on. The vision statements were developed through a workshop, and our full community development committee was at that time was able to attend, and also we had about 30 citizens from around the county who attended a meeting, and it was facilitated by a lady from UW Extension, Anna Haynes, who came here who does this around the state. And during that process, we went through, it was actually a 2-day workshop, and they went through an extensive effort to try to develop vision statements, an overall one for the county, and then ones that fit with each of the elements that are required to be in the comprehensive plan. And so you'll see in volume 1, you'll see at the beginning of each of the elements in orange, kind of an orange background, a statement called a vision statement about that element. And so sometimes I'm not sure what they meant either, because as a group, they developed that. But I believe what they meant, and I, as a staff person, was there to assist, but I did not dictate or suggest any of the language or anything that was written. So I just want to make sure that you understand that this was sort of a citizen group doing their best, coming up with language and trying to think 25 years into the future, what should St. Croix County be like? What do we hope to accomplish in this county? And I believe what they were trying to say with that statement, and for those of you, it's on page 100 if you want to look at it, of your attachments, it basically, I think, is trying to think about the concept of solar access. If people want to put solar panels on their property and the neighbor puts up a building that blocks their solar access, they have sort of a right to not have that completely blocked. And usually that's dealt with by setbacks, and even in St. Croix County, our minimum lot size for rural areas prevents any kind of taking away of your rights on your property. The same with wind things. If you have a number of neighboring large buildings that would block wind access for you to power a small wind generator on your own property, that would be something that the intent would be not to take away your rights to wind, because those kind of, and solar, because those kind of things do cross over, from one side of a property to another, and it isn't just limited. Like perhaps the well on your property is your natural resource, it's your responsibility. You still have to be concerned that you are not being impacted by your neighbor's use of their property. And we think about that with all natural resources. And I think that this was mentioned by the citizens in that group because they are interested, and they were interested in alternative energy sources, and I think that that was part of why they said that. Sort of there was someone in the group, I'm not sure who understood those kind of concepts and wanted to make sure that was mentioned. I don't know if you want me to go into it a little bit more, but when the county did our public opinion survey, we also asked that kind of a concept question. We said, what is the support or interest in alternative energy sources? And that answer we put into the comp plan here, and it's on page 128. And if you were to look at that, and we'll try to answer this a little more broadly, but if you were to look at that, you'll see that's under the economic development section, which is where we asked that question. And we also broke the survey up and asked that under an economic development heading. And we said, our renewable energy as an economic development strategy, is it supported in the county? And you'll see that the survey results said that yes, it was supported. But we didn't just ask about wind energy, we asked about solar, wind, hydropower, biofuels, methane digesters, because we have a great deal of interest in biofuels, of course, and also methane digesters from our agricultural community that sees that as a very important element in the future of economically for agriculture. So we asked about all those different questions, and then what we tried to do was put related policies in, and you can see right there is where we put an energy statement in on that same page, if you happen to be on that page. Again, it's on page 128. And it says, explore programs that help create economic development opportunities from renewable energy sources. But then it further states as a policy, encourage renewable energy resources on a small scale basis to serve individual businesses. And so the idea there was that we have had requests, and we do have interest throughout the county in doing different things. We have farmers that are pursuing methane digesters on their property. We have farmers who are interested in perhaps pursuing biofuels more comprehensively than we already have with ethanol. We have interest by individual property owners who come to us and want to put up small wind tower, just small, like the old-fashioned windmill, only it doesn't look like a windmill like we think of a classic picture anymore. It looks different, but they do want to put up a single source on their property in order to cut their own personal energy bills. So we were trying to provide support for that, whether it was a business, and at that time we were mostly thinking of our agricultural businesses, and we also put a similar statement in our natural resources section because we consider wind, solar, any of these things, hydrofuel, power, biofuels, all as a natural resource. So we put a similar statement in our natural resources section on page 147 about small scale basis. One of the reasons that the previous committee did not address large scale use of natural resources for alternative energy is because at the time, we knew that there was this situation going on in the community of Forest, and we understood that that was generating a lot of interest at the state level, and we also know that the Public Service Commission has the authority to sort of overrule the county once you reach a certain size on alternative energy, and that would be in effect for different types of alternative energy also. And also, if you review the state legislation, there are extensive limits on how much a county can regulate. And one of the very clear directions provided by the previous Community Development Committee was that our comprehensive plan should focus on what the county can impact and have control of, and that the county should not be trying to set policy for areas where we do not have any authorization or any jurisdiction. And so that was clearly stated, and that was a direction to us, and that was as staff how we followed. So that's a very long answer to a short question, but I tried to maybe catch a few of the other questions that might be coming. Go ahead.
And if I could follow up, so I'm not a lawyer, but how can the county ensure right to solar and wind access from a neighbor who may be opposing it without eminent domain? And that's it. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe Corp Counsel can weigh in on this. It just, to me, it has that sense of eminent domain.
Well, I don't know how you're going to get eminent domain out of that, because you'd have the right to use your property and put up a tower. And there's going to be restrictions through the zoning ordinance on how high that can be, how setbacks like Ellen alluded to. So there's going to be requirements of what you can put on your property depending on how your property's laid out. But it's going to be on your property. It's not going to go on their property. It's going to take wind maybe that's coming across their property.
But what we've seen in some of these larger towers where, because I'll be honest, I've attended some of the meetings out in Forest, and I've heard the testimonies that because some of these things are so large that it impedes the development rights of adjacent property owners. And I guess, and that's where I'm tying it together of how do you ensure the property rights of one owner over the property rights of another when they're in conflict.
Well, that's what the rules and regulations would be for the zoning ordinance, is going to have to take that into consideration with the setbacks and height limitations and things like that. That'll take into consideration the neighbor's property.
And maybe it's just to clarify, since it doesn't specifically talk about industrial turbines, are we quite certain that this is only relating to small individual for the private use of a business or for the private use of a home versus a commercial operation?
Supervisor Ring, do you wish to weigh in on that?
Thanks. Yes, it is my belief that it is about private. It is not at an industrial level. And the other distinction I wanted to make is that that is a vision statement. And in my overview, I tried to say we have a vision of where we want to go, and that they're more broadly based. But in the plan itself, we have a statement that the county will review its zoning regulations and implement changes to address large and small scale alternative energy development. So I think that goes to what Corp Counsel is saying, is the plan sets sort of a vision that we're looking at how do we accommodate small scale wind energy. The zoning ordinance, that is where those rules and regs are outlined. That is the work that's outlined that's yet to be done. That would be my take.
Supervisor York.
I'm on the City of Hudson Planning Commission. The City of Hudson developed a master plan in 1993. And we just went through a tedious process of updating that. I share your pain, believe me. My question is what caused the county to do this at this point in time? You did answer my other question. I did want to ask is what is the coordination with all the other municipalities, cities, towns, because the city has a very distinct path that they want to go, and obviously the county is now doing that. I thought the cities was state mandated. And I guess I'm bringing up these issues.
Yes.
Why are we late to the party? And then why did we do it? And do we go through a 10-year update process like the cities would do? some of these types of things that haven't been mentioned, if you clarify that, please.
I'll do my best, and Ellen weigh in if I don't get it quite right. So the county did a comprehensive plan that was a growth management plan that was adopted in March of 1990, and it was about the same time that the new regulations, there is a state mandate for local units of government to do planning. And so because they had just adopted the plan, they delayed it. I believe it was supposed to, we got a reprieve. It was supposed to be done by 2010, I believe, and because we were working on it and we had already just adopted one, that we got a little reprieve. So Ellen, did I say that right?
A couple, it was in 2000, not 1990, that we adopted our comprehensive plan. And that shortly after that, the state imposed the new, what they call the comprehensive planning law, revised the comprehensive planning law. And ours was very newly adopted, and it was also similar to this one in that in both plans, we tried to write what we always call shorthand a umbrella plan, in which we try to make sure it is broad enough that the local community plans can fit within it and that we don't conflict with them. And a lot of municipalities immediately started writing comprehensive plans as a result of the state law. And so recognizing that we wanted ours to incorporate theirs, we did not move to update ours until the majority of the local communities were done. In fact, we also provided planning assistance to numerous small towns and small villages as a part of doing the comprehensive plans over the past 10 years. I think we did 12 of them all told. So part of that was to give them time to get their comprehensive plans done so that ours could then be an umbrella plan. And then also we did start thinking late 2008 that we would have 2009 and 10 to complete our plan to meet the state deadline. And then in the meantime, the state adopted the Working Lands Initiative, and they put our county as one of the first 4 counties that had to have a farmland preservation update and had a deadline that we had to meet to update our farmland preservation plan. So we appealed to the state and said, okay, you've got 2 deadlines on us. Can we have specific extension to accomplish both at the same time and not have to go back and redo our comprehensive plan to match whatever we come up with our farmland preservation plan, because there is also a state mandate that the 2 have to be perfectly in sync. Okay? So what we did is we paused the comprehensive plan, did the farmland preservation plan, went back to the comprehensive plan, and now they're perfectly in sync. Yes.
One last question.
Yep, no problem.
Any deviances from the master plan then? Are they handled via, call it committee internally, or do they come before the county board? If there is to be a change from, call it, the general body of the master plan, somebody wants to do something that, is not that use that was declared for that property, does that come before us, or does that handled internally by?
No, it just like at the city, it would have to come before this board. It would go through the Community Development Committee and then come before this board. And if it deviated extensively enough, although ours is an umbrella plan and we try to be a little softer in our, we're not like a city or village with very hard, fast rules usually, but we do have some areas because we incorporated all the municipal plans. So there are some hard and fast areas for commercial, for instance, or industrial. But otherwise we're softer. But if it needs an amendment to the plan, then it has to come to this board as an amendment, and then that proposed use would then come to the board afterwards. Mm-hmm.
Supervisor Peavy.
Just for clarification, the comprehensive plan only applies to townships because cities and village plans are exempt, correct?
No, that's not correct. The county by state law has to incorporate city and village plans. So what we do is incorporate city and village plans totally as written, and we also have to incorporate town plans. But we only have jurisdiction over townships, so that's why it may seem like, why do we have to incorporate city and village plans when we have no jurisdiction? But yes, they are incorporated into the comp plan.
A follow-up question. And we know what's going to happen when the town plan, and every town's got a different plan, and they're not similar at all, conflicts with the county management plan. When push comes to shove, which plan takes precedent?
There's no real guidance at this time from the state. the intent and our intent is that we'll sit down and work it out, individual basis. And then if we do need an amendment, we'll come to the county board for amendment. But our intent would be to work it out, because there's no specific guidance on which one rules. Unless Don thinks of, okay.
Any other discussion, board members? Supervisor Schrottner.
I guess I can direct the question at Corp Counsel. With the pursuit of wind and solar, as the language is in the vision statement, since it's in the vision statement, could that be abused by a private business saying we want to put a turbine here and impede?
No, I think the ordinances are going to dictate that. This is just a plan.
Yeah.
Then your ordinances that'll be drafted will dictate what can and can't be and where it can and can't be. So that'll be in a different document, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
Any other questions? If not, I believe we're ready to vote. This is a resolution to recommend adoption of the St. Croix County 2012 through 2035 Comprehensive Plan on a motion by Supervisor Ring, second by Supervisor Schrottner. Are you prepared? Yep. Supervisors, go ahead and vote. And the resolution is approved on a vote of 15-3. One more item, and this now is a procedural item. We haven't, I don't think there's any discussion on this because we now have adopted the comprehensive plan. We've approved the resolution, but we now also need to have an ordinance to adopt the St. Croix County 2012 through 2035 comprehensive plan. There is not a document in your packet because this simply is a vote of the county board establishing the ordinance of what we just did. So if you're clear on that, Chair would entertain a motion to approve an ordinance to adopt the St. Croix County 2012 through 2035 comprehensive plan. Motion from Supervisor Schrottner, second from Supervisor Ring. Again, I indicated I don't think there's any discussion on this, but I will test that. And seeing none, are you prepared? Board members, proceed to vote.
Brian?
And the motion has the same result, and the ordinance is approved. I'll ask the county clerk if she has any report on correspondence or any rezoning requests.
I have nothing to report.
I'm not aware of any announcements except for one, and by the unbelievable power vested in me as your board chair, I hereby authorize you to have a very happy Thanksgiving. So feel free to do that. Seriously, thank you very much for your patience today. I think we did some good work. I would say with, I think, the support of the board. We appreciate the work and the diligence that was done by staff, by you, Pat, and by your staff in preparing the budget this year. The board books that you have, the green heavy books, keep those for reference as we go through the year. That is not an on-the-shelf gather dust document, but there is a lot of hard work that was done in that, and we thank you very much. And with that, board members, our agenda is complete, and we're adjourned.